This is section 1.2. These are the first part of the examples that I'll go through. Just a reminder again, you can always pause and rewind when needed. As I go through these three examples, my suggestion is to go through these three examples on the video and then do the three examples that I have for you in class Kick, just so that you can kind of see the relationship between the two, because they're both very similar. So let's first talk about the first question here. It says here, what are two other ways to name line QT? Now let's talk about this picture first here. On the picture you see a plane in the yellow, obviously. You see two lines here. You see, in this case, I'll call this line L since it's a little cursive L. And then you see this line here. This is line M. Okay, the little cursive M on the bottom. And you notice that these two lines do intersect, and you notice this line that I'm pointing out here with the arrow is going down into the plane and through the plane. That's what, again, those little dotted lines mean. So again, think of it as this. It's a piece of paper sitting flat, and you take your pen and pierce it through the piece of paper. So your line is piercing through the plane. So get back to the question, letter A. It says here, what are two other ways to name line QT? Well, line QT is pointed out from Q to T. So it's this line. It's the line that's piercing the plane. And I needed to find two other ways to name that line. So what I need to do here is I need to find two other dots. Okay, I'm not a big fan of flipping the letters. I want you to try and explore here a little bit and find different ways to name this thing. So I need to find two other dots that are on this line so I can name it. For example, I see the dot N, and I can use any other dot that I want that's on this line with the letter N. So for example, I'm going to name this guy line NQ. But again, remember, in order to make sure my notation is correct, I need to make sure that I have the line with the arrows on the top. So NQ is one other way to name that line. The other way, you'll notice again, if we go back here to that line, you'll notice the line that pierces here has a little cursive letter. We could name that line M. Line M if we wanted to. Okay, we can name that line M. Or if I wanted to, I could use N and I could use T. So I could name that line NT. Again, the notation is the important part as well. Again, I could name this a couple other different ways as well. But you kind of get the point here on how we're naming those lines. Okay, letter B says, what are two other ways to name plane P? You'll notice you see the plane. The plane's the yellowish type shape here. The plane is named right now plane P, which is this single letter down here in the corner. And again, notice it doesn't have a dot with it. So that's representing the plane, not a point. Okay, so I need to find 3 points that are in plane P, that are in the yellow, that are not on the same line. So you'll notice as I look through here, I see V, R, Q, and S. So I just need to name 3 of these letters. Again, as I'm naming this, they cannot be on the same line. So I'm going to start with plane V, and then I'm going to go R and Q. 3 letters that are not on the same line, but they're in the same plane. So I start here with V, I have R, and I have Q. Okay, that's one way to name it. Another way to name it could be plane, and this time let's use V, and let's use S, and let's use R. Okay, so V, S, and R are another name for those planes. Notice I don't ever use the letter T, and I don't ever use the letter N. Those are not in the plane. As you can see, they're not in the yellow section. And you'll notice also I did not name this R, Q, and S because planes cannot be named by lines. They have to be 3 non-collinear points. Okay, letter C, it says here, what are the names of 3 collinear points? Key vocabulary word here, collinear. So that means that these points have to be on the same line. So, collinear points. Points that are on the same line. If I go back to the picture, I can do this a couple ways. Let's first look at line L. Are there 3 points that are on line L? There sure are. That's R, Q, and S. So I could name 3 points, R, Q, and S. Or I could also name N, Q, and T. Those are 3 collinear points. Okay? Now, non-collinear points. Non-collinear points, I want to name, what are the names of 4 non-collinear points, or excuse me, I'm sorry, I just screwed that up. We're going to go back and do this again. What are the names of 4 coplanar points? So I want 4 points that are in the plane. In other words, as I'm looking at this picture here, what are the 4 dots that are inside the yellowish type region? So as we look at this, we want coplanar. Coplanar points. So again, as I'm looking in here, I need to find 4 points that are in the yellow. And those 4 points that are in the yellow are V, R, Q, and S. Okay, now I want you to return back to ClassKick and do the 3 examples that I have that are similar to this for part 1.